Roquan Smith brutally taunted Patrick Queen after the Ravens defeated the Steelers to move on to the divisional round. We talk about that. Lamar Jackson and some other Ravens sending some stone cold messages and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, or daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day, free and available for you on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe over there as well. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens show. So we bring you daily Ravens news, daily Ravens analysis, daily Ravens updates every single Monday through Friday. That's our regularly scheduled show. We also do bonus episodes like this one here today on the weekends when the headlines are telling us we need to do a bonus episode. Then we also go live after every single Ravens game like we did last night. And, of course, after every piece of Ravens big news. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens bonus style is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. How are we feeling today? It is a victory Sunday. Again, you don't get to say that very often because usually the Ravens play on Sunday. I guess not really so much. It feels like forever since the Ravens have played on a Sunday. Last time was what? It was the Giants game coming out of the bye, because then it was Saturday against the Steelers. Then it was Wednesday against Houston, Saturday against the Browns, and then Saturday. So the Ravens are just a Saturday team now. I guess we do get to say victory Sunday. And this one was the sweetest as the Ravens beat up on the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14. We'll, of course, talk about some of the game, dive into some of the nuances that happened, of course, now that we're even further out than we were during the live stream. But we have to talk about a couple of big headlines coming from the post game of what happened between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Starting off, Roquan Smith just brutally taunting Patrick Queen after the game, and honestly taunting the Steelers as well. Roquan was on one post-game, and then Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and others sending some stone-cold messages because, let's be honest, this win was great. It was awesome. We should all be celebrating, but 3 more to go. One game at a time, clean slate each and every single week. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about Roquan here. We'll start off, we'll go and well, let's start with Patrick Queen. I think we have to start with the bigger headline there, and that would be Patrick Queen. I think for me, the Patrick Queen situation, and I've talked about this, it's been very overblown in my opinion. Patrick Queen has tried to play the villain going from Baltimore to Pittsburgh. He clearly felt slighted. I've talked about the situation as it almost feels like it's been a breakup. Everything that you go through in a breakup, you go to a different team, or in this case, you find someone new and you're trying to stick it to them. You're trying to impress the new place or the new partner that you have. And then, you kind of get over the old thing. You like the new thing. And so we've seen all of those emotions with Patrick Queen, but he kind of made it out like he disrespected the food in Baltimore, kind of disrespected the city a little bit. And that point was made to me because I said Patrick Queen really hadn't done anything villainy. That to me was the biggest thing that was villainy. But on the field, he didn't act like a villain. He had a decently good game the first time around. He was good in that first game, but was a liability for Pittsburgh in the second and third games. And so after the contest, Roquan Smith threw some jabs at Patrick Queen, and he made sure to say that, that's his guy and it's with love. But he said, quote, "I think I remember my guy PQ saying the last time we played them, it was hat and a t-shirt. But I guess the t-shirt he got on, it'll be in Cabo or somewhere." Just, man, brutal stuff from Roquan. I mean, Queen was talking about, he wants the hat and t-shirt, doesn't care about anything else. He wants to win the division, tried to deflect from any storylines in that game. That was the big thing with Patrick Queen when he was talking about, the hat and t-shirt, that's what I want. I want to win the division. And the official quote from the last time that kind of gives this whole situation context is when Queen was talking about playing the Ravens for the division a couple weeks ago. He said, when asked about if he was, trying to get over on his former teammates and beating his teammates, has the division taken precedent over that? He said, I'm over it. We clinched the playoff spot. There are bigger things to look at down the road. Right now, this is a big game. It's a division game, a chance to get T-shirts and hats. I'm all for it, all for the rivalry, but I'm over my old team. And again, it's been a whole drawn-out situation, and Roquan and PQ do have love for each other. I'm not saying that Roquan came out and was just like disrespecting Patrick Queen. I think the comments, if you read them without context, come off as disrespectful, but Roquan made it clear that he wasn't trying to be like over the top disrespectful. What he was throwing jabs, like he was throwing some jabs at his guys. So Queen really didn't do a lot in this game. I actually don't even know what his final box score stats were. I will pull that up quickly. He finished with 10 tackles, but really didn't make a huge impact on the game. And I felt like, look, he was brought in to stop the run, and obviously that involves Derrick Henry. And the Ravens ran for 300 yards on Pittsburgh, 299 to be exact. If you want to get technical, 299. But it was kind of came out of nowhere from Roquan, and Roquan really was Roquan has those one-liners, right? The one-liners that you can kind of take to the quote book and those types of deals. But he ended up talking about how that was just the appetizer to our dinner and all whole bunch of different things. But he didn't really stop there. I guess this was the second part of the saga. The first part of the Roquan Smith taunting saga is that the Ravens do their victory cam or their dub cam. And pretty much what it is the Ravens walk up to a camera from the field into the locker room. And, you know, if they win, they celebrate, they say something to the camera, and they walk on. And so what Roquan decided to use his camera time to say was, good luck to those guys. Good luck in your offseason plans. We'll see you guys next year. And, you know, he gave a little nice salute and was very clearly saying it as, haha, like, enjoy your offseason. We beat you. Get out of here. Like, better luck next time. Like, that was more of a jab than the PQ one was, in my opinion. Like, I think Roquan was seriously just throwing some, if you want to call it friendly, if you want to call it, I don't want to call it respectful jabs, but if you want to talk about that with Patrick Queen, I would say that is what that was. Him going into the dub cam and doing that was the disrespectful, like, hey, get out of here. Like, we won. You didn't. Enjoy your offseason. We're going on. You're not. And that's what the division rivalry that's what a division rivalry like this should be. You get little jabs like this in, talking crazy. I mean, the Steelers players were talking all week. Jaylen Warren said that he preferred this matchup. Beanie Bishop was, you know, mad that the spread was so big, and what they beat us. That was their first time beating us, and not like their last 10 games or something. Well, guess what? The spread was 9.5 over at our friends at FanDuel, and the Ravens won by 14. So FanDuel, if you bet on the Ravens there, hey, you're living large, and there was nothing to be mad about because that's how the game went. And the Ravens, and we'll talk about this, have flipped that narrative on its head of, oh, these are close games. Pittsburgh always wins these games. Well, guess what? You got the whole, Pittsburgh wins all these games against Baltimore. That's out the window. Oh, these are all close games. Baltimore has beaten down Pittsburgh in 2 straight games. And part of that was because Patrick Queen and the defense didn't play well enough. And Queen talked about some of the issues that the defense had over the course of the last part of the year, and talked about communication issues and how, you know, everybody wasn't on the same page and all that type of stuff. But the Ravens offense showed up and dominated, absolutely dominated. Queen said the Steelers defense got too comfortable. They let off the pedal. And I agree with him that they let off the pedal because the Steelers, this might just be me, but they looked defeated. They looked like they gave up. They looked like they wanted to go home, and that they conceded to the Baltimore Ravens. They conceded that the Ravens were the better team. And I know Mike Tomlin is shouldering a lot of the blame. I know the players are letting him do that. But look, when you look back at Patrick Queen's year 1 in Pittsburgh, I mean, fans were not happy at all with him in Pittsburgh at the beginning of the season. And I know this because I kept up with him, so we could talk about it on the show. Fans were not happy with Patrick Queen. He was struggling with processing, struggling with eye discipline. There was a lot of stuff he was struggling with. Got it together a little bit towards the middle part of the season, but then started to struggle again late. And obviously in this game, I don't think he played particularly well overall. So it was a rough first year for PQ in Pittsburgh. And this was after all the talking he did, right? And look, I don't expect a guy to go to a new team and say, yeah, I love my old team. I love my old team. I love my old team. Like, obviously you have the, I respect them, this, that, and the other. But, that's not like an obligatory thing that you have to say. But it's just like he brought the city into it and he brought the food into it. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to play the villain role. Like, I'm going to inject that into the rivalry. It was just like talk. And, went on throughout the season. And that's why I'm saying it's like stages of a breakup where he talked. He was trying to get one over on his old team or old partners. We're going to talk about it for a breakup. He finally said he got over it and that he had those emotions and he would think about it all the time, like all this stuff. We witnessed a full stage breakup process throughout this entire thing. And I think it is overdrawn. I think it is overblown. And hopefully we don't have to talk about it the way we've talked about it this year, next year, because it will truly be over. PQ is a Steeler now. It is what it is. But the Ravens are moving on and he is not. That is the reality of the situation. The Ravens chose Roquan Smith over Patrick Queen. He was mad he didn't get an offer from Baltimore, and I understand. But the Ravens chose Roquan over PQ, which was the right decision. And it would have been great if they could have worked things out. But there was no way that they were going to be able to pay 2 inside linebackers. And Roquan was clearly the better player. They gave up a ton of draft capital to move and go get him. And while they spent a first-round pick on PQ, it was clear that Roquan was the better fit for their defense and was the better player. So when you choose like that, one guy's there and one guy's not. And now PQ is not, and he's going on vacation, and the Ravens are advancing, and that is how it is. So coming up in the second part of the show, we will talk about Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, sending some stone-cold messages to the NFL and to the Ravens. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot to get to on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by LinkedIn. Growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them in finding high-quality candidates. I know from experience how important it is to make the right hiring decisions. Having access to insights like what skills candidates have or how they connected to your network, that helps you feel confident when you pull the trigger. Hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And the show is brought to you by Rocket Money. The Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice. That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We're back for our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you after the Ravens defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14 in the wild card round. They advance to the divisional round, and they will either face the Buffalo Bills or the Houston Texans. Be sure to like and subscribe in video form. Follow along in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Tell a friend and tell a family member. Social media obviously is the big promoter now, right? But word of mouth is still very, very important. So if you have a friend or a family member who likes Ravens football or just wants the Ravens perspective on things, be sure to send them our way over on Locked On Ravens. And by the way, we will be live later today after we find out who the Ravens will play between the Bills and the Texans. So that game is going to be played at 1 p.m. tomorrow. So probably be live here on Locked On Ravens around 4:30. Whenever that game ends, we will have a bonus live edition of the show to break down the Ravens' next playoff opponent. But the Ravens have to be locked in here. Obviously, it's a great win. We can celebrate it. I talked about that earlier. But they have to make sure it's one game at a time. And it feels like that's the way that things are here. And the multiple Ravens sent, in my opinion, stone cold messages to their teammates, to the NFL. And again, it's not like the Ravens players are calling out their teammates or anything. It's like, hey, let's go get this thing into the NFL. The stone cold message is, yeah, we're coming for this thing. And, you have to try to stop us or we're going to go to where we want to go. And so Lamar Jackson was talking after the game. He made a very funny comment about Derrick Henry, kind of watching him as like Lightning McQueen and all that. But the big storyline over the course of the last week has been Lamar admitted that he's been antsy during the playoffs and he has to calm himself down. And a lot of people, especially on the national media airwaves, took that and ran with it in a negative light. Obviously, people like Mike Florio and Nick Wright, Stephen A. Smith, we heard that word antsy a lot. And Lamar, I thought it was very big of him to admit to his struggles, whereas, wasn't really painted in that light across other platforms. So the big thing is when Lamar was asked about not to be too amped up for the games, it's a different thing because he talked about, his prep for the game was he was just chill. He said, I was just chill. I'm not going to lie. I was eager throughout the whole week to hurry up and become Saturday. When the day came, I was just cool throughout the day. I didn't want to get on the phone. I didn't want to talk. My mom called me. I said, I don't want to talk. No disrespect. Never disrespect. But I don't want to talk. I'm just ready for the game. Let me go to the game. I don't want to play around or smile. It was just that type of thing. And that's what it's going to be each and every time. This to me signals that, look, we know Lamar is locked in. That is not a question among, people who follow this team, who cover this team, who know this team. Lamar is ready for this. Lamar wants to win, and he is so locked in that goal. And we hear it across the Ravens locker room. We hear it even on the field, coaches, players. It's like, hey, great game. But there are things we need to clean up. And that's been the mentality. This is not just a one-off. This has been the entire season that this is happening. And so Lamar is saying, look, I don't even want to smile. That's some stone cold stuff right there, in my opinion. He doesn't even want to smile. Doesn't even want to have some fun. It's important to stay loose. But look, he's not joking around here, right? This is important to Lamar. This is important to everybody in that locker room, everybody in that franchise. Is important to the fan base. Like, this is the goal. You don't play to just mess around. I think that's the problem the Steelers are in right now, right? Where Mike Tomlin has proven the track record as a regular season coach. But when the playoffs have come around, the track record over the past decade has been horrendous. I don't think he's won a playoff game since 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So and I know there is a certain bunch of people who want to fire John Harbaugh, a bunch of people who don't. I know the fan base is very divided on that topic. For Tomlin, the case is even more clear than it is on Harbaugh, whichever side you're on in that conversation, that they should move on. So again, the goal is not to mess around, have a good regular season record, and then say, okay, we're going to lose in the first or second round. And Derrick Henry kind of echoed that too when he gave his post-locker room speech. He went viral for it last week, and I think he'll probably go viral for it again this week too, where he said, just believe, believe, believe. 3 more, one at a time, practice so that in games it is executed. It's those kind of messages. Like this team is so detail-oriented. And I'm not saying they're the only team that is. I think all 32 teams are detail-oriented. But I think that this team has a belief and a want, and that goal is united. And while I think that last year we talk a lot about how perfect that roster was, how perfect that coaching staff was, just felt like everything was lining up. I don't think it's been that way this season, but it honestly feels better that way. It feels better that the Ravens have had to go through that adversity. And if you're an everydayer here, you've heard me talk about this all season, where I feel like the Ravens are better positioned to win this season. And I said this on the live stream, and it was a really awesome live stream. We were going crazy in the chat, and we were going crazy on that live. One of the things I said was, if the Ravens play like they did against the Steelers in the wild card round, and the game goes that way, no one is beating this team. They're cakewalk into a Super Bowl, because I think that they have whatever. They're going to play good teams moving forward, whether it's Buffalo, Houston, Kansas City, Philly, Detroit, whatever. All those are good teams, have a ton of talent, and I respect all those teams. But when the Ravens are able to pound the rock like they were able to in this game, when they were able to use the pass effectively off of that, when there weren't a ton of mistakes, turnovers weren't there, offensive line playing great and moving bodies, defense stepping up for the most part, that Ravens team is the best team in football there. Now, if there are those things that pop up, that's a different conversation. And you'll probably say, Kevin, of course, if any team plays the best they can, they're going to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, but I'm saying the Ravens would dominate to a Super Bowl. like they would dominate to it. Now it's not going to be that way probably, right? There are going to be some close games. They have really tough teams coming up. And in my opinion, the Steelers offense is the worst offense they'll face in the postseason. I think that Buffalo's offense is better. Houston's, even though I think Houston's would be the second worst. I think Houston's is better. I think that Kansas City's obviously is better, Philly, Detroit, whatever. But this to me was a statement win for the Ravens. And I think that the statements made after the game by players, coaches, and that's kind of been it's the whole thing. Like everybody's echoing each other, right? Rashad Bateman saying it's a great feeling, but we know we've got some more work to be done. We look forward to it. John Harbaugh talking about, oh, well, look, it's something we're grateful for. They've earned the chance to bring this. He's proud of them, but, there's still more work to do. One game at a time. You have the coaches, the players, they are all on a string. They are all echoing each other. This team has one goal. I think that's going to carry them very, very far as we talk about what these next couple of weeks look like for them, because the goal is not to get back to the AFC Championship game. The goal is to make the Super Bowl, and the goal is to win that thing. That is what it is. Consistent growth. Because let's face it, and knock on wood, this does not happen. There it is. If the Ravens lose in the divisional round, this season is a failure. If the Ravens lose in the AFC Championship game, honestly, this season is a failure. Because that doesn't show growth. Making it to the Super Bowl, you can argue that that's a step forward. Still, it's not your ultimate goal, and in that case, it would be a failure. But with every year you don't win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson in his prime is a year you waste. You're wasting that year. So you have to have a locker room that's united, which is why they've gotten rid of the guys that have not been united in that goal, a la Eddie Jackson and Deontay Johnson. Marcus Williams, I think, has been a decent sport about the whole thing. I mean, he's not cut. I mean, technically the Ravens really can't do that. They lose a ton of money. But regardless, he's kind of accepted. He's inactive, and it is what it is there. But you have players who are stepping up left and right. I think it's been an amazing turnaround for this team, an amazing turnaround for the defense, particularly in the pass area. And, 3 more games. All you need is 3 more wins. And coming up, we're going to talk about how Baltimore can keep it going, talk a little bit about the divisional round, how the Ravens can continue their momentum, and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And Ravens, this entire week, they were 9.5-point favorites against the Steelers, and they won by 14. So if you believe in the Ravens, you're living large over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're back, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Victory Sunday. A very glorious Victory Sunday, if I do say so myself. Really appreciate you tuning in here to Locked On Ravens. Video form, audio form. It's the same show either which way. We're debuting a little sleek Locked On Ravens look here with the lower third. The big lower third is gone. We're going to go with a little smaller one in the corner there. And we're also going to be making upgrades throughout the rest of the playoffs and the offseason to improve both the video and the audio quality here, because I really take pride and take seriously bringing you the best daily Ravens coverage that I can each and every single day. And, I'm looking forward and excited to upgrade. We're going to upgrade the background, upgrade audio, video. So the whole 9 yards is going to be really, really exciting, especially if the Ravens can continue this deep playoff run. Now, we have to talk about the game a little bit. Obviously, the Ravens played one last night against Pittsburgh. The Ravens just dominated in almost every single aspect here. Obviously, Derrick Henry, stat-wise, was the star of the show, 26 for 186 and 2 touchdowns. But Lamar Jackson really, to me, was the best player on the field with his gravity, and the Steelers essentially conceding that they had to stop Lamar, because what they tried to do early in the game was throw everything at Derrick Henry and make Lamar beat them with his legs. And he did that. It was over and over again. Lamar would take that option and just kick it to the outside, and he'd pick up chunk yards on almost every single play. But then after halftime, the Steelers said, man, we really cannot do this anymore. Like, we have to stop Lamar. So they went to him, and then that opened things up for Derrick Henry. It was alley-oop both ways. Lamar throwing the lob to Derrick Henry throwing the lob to Lamar. Both guys worked so beautifully in tandem, and I don't want to hear anybody talking about the 175 passing yards for Lamar. He only had 5 incompletions. Multiple of those were either spikes or throwaways. Lamar played a really good game. I don't want to hear about the passing yards. Lamar was the best player on the field, and that's not a slight at Derrick Henry. Both guys were incredible, and you should not take away from one because the other did well, right? It shouldn't be that way. It feels like these guys have been, put up against each other all season, when in reality, I mean, they have so much love for each other, and they both benefit from one another, and both of them has said as such. So we can just put all those crazy narratives to bed. Both players made an incredible impact on this game. No Zay Flowers, but you had Isaiah Likely, 3 for 53. Mark Andrews, 2 for 27. Nelson Aguilar, 1 for 25. Rashad Bateman got in the action with a touchdown. So did Justice Hill. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Ardarius Washington was a beast again, led the team in tackles, had a big stop on Pat Freiermuth that forced the Steelers to punt the ball away. A very scared decision there, in my opinion, on 4th and inches, but, benefits the Ravens, so I'm not complaining. Roquan Smith had 5 tackles. Now, Bike was able to get 2 sacks in this game, but Afe Owe was able to get 1. Ravens had 4 sacks in this game. And I just thought it was an overall great effort. And the stats say as such. I mean, the Ravens had 29 first downs compared to Pittsburgh's 11, went 10 of 15 on 3rd down, 464 total yards compared to Pittsburgh's 280, outgained Pittsburgh on the ground by almost 300 yards, 299 to just 29. And the Ravens held the ball for 40 minutes. 40 minutes. The Steelers held the ball for 20. This was a complete domination game. I know there were some moments in the 3rd quarter that, people were probably getting a little antsy like Lamar said he did in the playoffs, but Lamar was cool, calm, and collected the entire time. I was honestly super, super impressed. And again, if the Ravens play like that, they're winning the Super Bowl, and it's not even going to be close. But they have other opponents that they have to face off against, either Buffalo or Houston. Obviously, if you had to pick a matchup that you would feel better about for Baltimore, I think you have to go with the team that doesn't have the MVP candidate in Houston. I think that Baltimore, like they did the first time around, would demolish the Texans. The Texans looked good against the Chargers. It wasn't great at first, but they ended up putting out a big statement against Los Angeles where, I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of had the Texans as a one and done in the postseason. So shout out to Houston. But Buffalo is a team that's probably going to be the one that matches up. Now, who knows? Denver could go and pull the upset. Playoffs are always unpredictable. Playoffs are always crazy. I'm not putting it past, Buffalo to lose to Denver or for Denver to upset. Now, if you're listening to this after the fact, you already know which team the Ravens are playing. So maybe Buffalo lost, maybe Buffalo won, whatever it is. But obviously, regardless of if it's Houston or Buffalo, the Ravens are going to have to play their A game because any slip up can cost you in the biggest way when it comes to the postseason. So I thought the Ravens looked prepared, and that to me was the biggest win of the night. Obviously, the win itself is the most important, but the fact that they looked prepared, they looked ready, they looked like they belonged, which I didn't have a doubt they would, that was what you needed to do. And again, division games are not easy. Just because the Ravens did this against Pittsburgh does not mean that Pittsburgh has no talent or is a bad team. They have multiple future Hall of Famers on that defense, and they were relatively healthy on defense. I know their offensive line was beat up. I know that Russ was not good in this game, and for that, I think the Steelers should extend him for 10 years, like we said on the live stream. But this was a game that a lot of people were like, oh, the Steelers really could upset the Ravens, or this is going to be I thought it was going to be a close game too. I've had 26-19 as my final score, so I had it as a 7-point game. Ravens ended up winning by 14. So this was a good start. It was a good start, but that's the key word here. Start. You got to continue it week to week. The Ravens know that. They understand. And I don't know about anybody else, but I got a lot more confidence watching this team beat up on the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round. So that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. Coming up, we'll be back here live later today, breaking down if the Ravens will play the Bills or the Texans. We will find out. And when we do, we will go live right here. So be sure to subscribe in video form on YouTube and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Be sure to stay tuned, and I'll see you right back here later today on Locked On Ravens.